To say a car is good looking is not normally a controversial statement, and yet it's not something that would have been said about Volvos for a long time. Back in the 70s and 80s, it was very much like a safety-obsessed dad at a party. Reliable, sober, yes, but also quite boring. Then, in the 90s, they teamed up with TWR, Tom Walkinshaw Racing, and Dad's drink got spiked with something naughty. Historically, Volvo never gave a damn about the way their cars looked, at least not since the 60s. Then, in 1997, it seems they suddenly thought, but what if we were hot? The C70 is the Swedish company's first attempt at a luxury stylish coupe since the P1800 of the 60s. And depending on who you ask, they either nailed it or completely missed the point. To be fair, by the early 90s, Volvo had already done a lot of work to make their cars more involving to drive. The 850 was a huge step forward, but, well, it still looked like a Volvo. This did not. Ian Callum, who was then at TWR, did the design, and it is an example of pure 90s elegance. Minimalist, clean, but with just enough drama to stand out. It's almost as if a Saab put on a tux and stopped being weird. It was designed and co-produced with TWR. 26,000 coupes were produced and 48,000 convertibles, though the latter was much heavier, suffered from scuttle shake, so if you're a keen driver, it's probably best avoided. The body is all new, but the chassis is based on the 850 platform, which means struts up front, and then Volvo's quite trick Delta Link rear suspension. So it's quite long for a coupe, but that does mean that you have plenty of room in the back. Access is still a little bit hampered because of its nature, but for a coupe, it is quite practical. The engine is an inline-5 2.3 litre turbocharged lump, which was also used in various Fords and the Volvo T5R. Good enough to produce 245 horsepower for a 0 to 60 in under 7 seconds and 140 mile an hour top speed. Now, it's said that the sweet spot is actually the version below, which bizarrely was a 2.4 litre, but with a low pressure turbo that put out 200 horsepower. I think seemed to tax the chassis a little bit less. There was also a 2 litre turbo, but that's considered underpowered for this. This then seems to represent the second part of Volvo's transformation. With the 850 series, they made cars that were nice to drive. With this, cars that were nice to look at. Is it though the complete package? Let's find out. Before we head off, just a quick look in the glove box, and I see that Mark has got some age-appropriate cassettes. I mean, just looking at this thing, it just reminds me, these double cassettes like this. Do you guys, I don't know if some of you are as old as I am, this stuff really brings back memories. He's got another couple in there as well. Now Dance, although this is less appropriate as 89, and it has the double opening cassette there. Love these old details. Okay, let's go. So it's a 5-cylinder, so it should be more interesting than your average 4-cylinder blown lump. And I've driven 850s and stuff before, so I'm expecting this to be relatively similar. Just pulling off now gives you the impression of being quite a heavy car. The steering is very light. There's just, I'm not sure where it's coming from. There's a sort of feeling of heft to it. The gear change similarly is very light. It's a little bit vague, but I think maybe it's just worn bushings there. The interior is typical Volvo of the time. In terms of colours, it's a bit unexciting. It's all grey. I think in some of them, depending on the colour, it was beige maybe. They were probably a bit better built than your average economy interiors from the likes of Ford and so on, but I don't know, it's an interesting mix, this interior. It looks quite nice, it's functional, but it doesn't wow you or dazzle you. Perhaps at the time it would have felt, would have had a bit more of a wow factor about it. Interestingly, Mark told me that this stereo system, I can't remember who it's by, but he played it earlier and it is really impressive, and apparently it won Best In-Car Audio in 98 or something like that. Driving it slowly like this, it feels like quite a relaxed thing. The ride is pretty good. The steering feels quite soft, quite slow, but I think it suits the car. And the power delivery of the engine as well is quite easily metered. It seems that road noise from the tyres, from the suspension, is kept well at bay. But I guess the first thing we'll want to know is, how does this 5-pot feel? It's turbocharged, so I'm expecting a big wedge of power to come on, around sort of 3.5. Let's find out what it's like. They always feel a bit faster than they should do, these Volvos. This one's also had a very slight remap, so instead of 240, it's putting out 270 horsepower. It does feel quick, and strangely enough, it feels quicker in the upper gears than it did in first. I wonder if it's got a torque limiting function in first gear, but certainly 240, 270 is not that much of a difference, but even now it's a car that you wouldn't moan doesn't have enough power. In terms of the way it approaches the corners, well, let's finish. I'm just going to go through these sort of sweepers and then I'll talk about that, but it's not too bad so far, not too bad. Better than I was expecting for sure. It has good grip and there's a little bit of lean, a little bit of imprecision, but if you treat it as a little GT, then it's better than you have any right to expect. It's good, it's good. It's not a sports car, let me underline that, but for a little softish GT, it's good. So if you're looking at comparisons, okay, the inevitable E46 or E36, I think it straddled both on the BMW camps. They would have handled better, the interiors were a bit more solid, and the engines would have been more exciting in a way. But this is definitely more comfortable, it's a more off-field choice as well, a bit more interesting. Or you could have gone for a small Merc coupe, which would have been softer and handled less well than this. So it's an interesting placement. When I was talking with Mark earlier, he said they didn't sell that many, so less than 100,000 altogether. I think part of the problem would have been Volvo's image at the time might have stopped people from buying it. And the fact that they sold more convertibles than coupes also seems to speak volumes. It's not something you want to muscle through corners, and now that we're coming up to the tighter bends, I think it's probably just going to understeer. We'll soon find out, but it's nice. The engine, when you're cruising, you can't really hear it very much. Under strain, it's got a nice little deep growl to it. Let's get it down into second, and then we're going to scrabble up out of this tighter one. Throw it in, foot down. It's good, it's soft, but it's good. And that 5-cylinder sounds great and very distinctive. Let's do another run through the gears, because I love this engine. I think it was also in the Focus RS. Little bit speechless. Well, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, this is really good. And in terms of handling, certainly it's a lot better than I was expecting. It's just quite well resolved. You can feel it's not set up to be a sports car. It's set up more to be a comfortable tourer. But when you do throw it around, it works really well. I'm astounded. So my current car, which is an Alpha 159, it's a TI, so it has the sportier suspension setup, and it feels so much more compromised than this. Yes, okay, it's definitely sharper, and the steering's got a little bit more verve about it, but all in all, this feels much less compromised. The damping and the springing is just spot on, and this must be down to TWR's involvement. Obviously, they were based in the UK, in this same area, and you can feel that it's just tuned to work really well. So what do we make about the looks? I think it's a great looking car. Even more so if you can find the saffron coloured ones with the bigger wheels. I think in the UK, the 18s were more common, and it is good for the ride handling balance. But a saffron car with the bigger wheels? Wow, what a thing. Perhaps the front end is the least successful looking bit, just because it's so similar to the Volvo family face. But certainly these lines are very, very elegant. Now, if you wanted to buy one, in terms of running costs, they're generally pretty good. They're quite reliable. The front end takes a bit of the kicking because it's front wheel drive, lots of torque from the engine, so it will go through tyres quite a lot. But apart from that, you're all right. The problem you will have, though, is that they're very hard to find. This was the first generation based on the 850, and they did another generation afterwards, which was a folding hardtop, which used the Focus platform. Now, that's a smaller car, really, and also, in terms of looks, doesn't have the same presence or the same clean-cut lines as this. Much prefer this. But if you're going to look for them, what you'll find is a raft of convertibles, which, as I said, are definitely not, they don't drive as well as this. And for coupes, I think there's one currently on sale for about £6,000, though generally, I didn't look at the details of that, maybe it's quite low mileage. I think generally they're sort of between 3,000 and 4,000 for good ones. This one has 98,000 miles, and there are some signs of wear on the interior and on the body, but it drives extremely well. So what do I make of the C70? I think that it really is a very underrated car that has largely been forgotten about. These are terms that are way too often used on YouTube, but it is true about this. It's a car that looks good, that handles well, doesn't cost very much money, and I'd really encourage you to take a look at one of these if you haven't considered it already. If you enjoyed this, you might like to look at another coupe from this sort of early 90s, the Vauxhall Calibra. Something else that was really good looking, but that had a few underlying issues. Have a look at that if you're interested. Thank you so much for watching. Look forward to seeing you for the next video.